Today I'm going to talk about how you can make the most of your time as a student. You could be studying for a degree, your GCSEs or A-levels, but the tips I'm going to provide you with today will definitely help you in making sure you make the most out of your time and do the best that you can. So before I start, I'd like to encourage you to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and also to subscribe if you haven't subscribed. That way I know if the video has been useful and it can help me tailor my content in the future. So I've seen a lot of young people do a lot of studygrams. I hope I've got that terminology correct. While I think it's really good to take notes, I've seen a lot of very detailed notes, which is great, and everyone's different. And when I look back at my own note taking, I have to really think, was it note taking? Sometimes there's a lot of information and you may not be sure of what the key points are. So by this I mean you might think everything is important, and everything is important. Note taking is meant to be taking brief, short, concise notes. So make sure you don't fall into the trap of, when you're reading a book or you're reading something online, writing down pretty much 95% of that text. Make sure you take the key points. I've also seen a lot of very pretty, colourful notes, and this is also great. This might help you if you're a visual learner. I know for me, I actually coloured in my anatomy book because it really helped me take the information in. But make sure that you're not spending too much time making your notes really pretty. So my tip is to buy, whether that's a book or some flashcards, and annotate them yourself and highlight them yourself, versus sitting there and writing loads and loads of notes. This will actually take a lot of your time, and this is speaking from experience. As a medical student, there's a lot of information, and towards the end of my medical degree I bought more. Now you can't buy all the books because there's just too many, of course, and it's going to be very expensive, but buy some key books and buy some key resources, and then annotate the books and highlight the books, and this will save you so much time than writing everything out. You might find that reading books and just sitting there reading isn't for you, which is why you need to know what works for you. Make sure you switch it up a little bit. So yes, read. Make sure you answer questions, solve puzzles, solve problems, use videos, podcasts, use a number of different things to help you get that information in, retain it, and then be able to answer the questions in your exams. So a really useful tip is to know your personality and know your learning style. Now we all have different learning styles, and often we use a number of different methods to actually ensure that we are grasping and getting that information in correctly. I like to look at diagrams, pictures, and certainly when I was studying in medical school and even for my GCSEs and A-levels, I tried to employ the use of diagrams and pictures as much as I could. I remember I tried actually recording my voice and recording the notes. I got a B in one of my exams, and I remember thinking, I don't think that listening is actually the way I learn. I think I zoned out sometimes when I was listening to my own voice. Maybe it was the way I was talking. I learned a valuable lesson there. It is a bit of trial and error. You just have to experiment and make sure that you know exactly what works for you. This will make things so much easier going forward. So say if you're doing your GCSEs now, by the time you get to your degree level, if you decide to go to university, you will know exactly what works for you, and therefore you'll be able to work much more efficiently. So as a medical student, you're always having exams. And when I was doing my clinical placements, we were having exams much more frequently. So at the end of every placement, which I think was about 3 months, we would have exams. At the start of the year, I started answering practice questions later on, and I didn't do too well in the paper. I passed, but of course it wasn't the score that I wanted. So my tip would be, especially if on your course you have frequent exams or frequent assessments, and the way that you're assessed is through questions. So that could be extended matching questions, EMQs, that could be single best answer, that could just be multiple choice, or even comprehension text. I would say start answering questions before, especially with medicine where a lot of it is problem solving and pattern recognition. So for you to be very good at pattern recognition, you would have to answer a lot of questions. So I would say answer a lot of questions, the more the better, as many as you can do earlier on, rather than saying, well, I'm going to accumulate all this information and then I'm going to test myself later on. I wouldn't do that, and that's speaking from experience. Again, everyone is different, but looking back, and especially from that first time when I didn't do that, and then the second and third time when I had those next assessments, I did so much better because I'd answer questions earlier on. And actually, when you answer questions, there's a lot of information. If you get the answer wrong, or even if you get the answer correct, it tells you why the other answers may not have been correct. Of course, it depends on the nature of your assessment. But I found that doing this much earlier on really helped improve my score substantially. Now, I know a lot of students are good at doing this already, but if you haven't considered it, then make sure you think about things like internships over the summer, or doing something over the summer, because let's face it, you've got a lot of time off during the summer, whether you're a GCSE student, A-level student, and if you're studying at university, I would make use of that time, and doing an internship is a really good use of your time. And even if you're not thinking about doing an internship, then use your summer wisely, and even use the time when you're not studying wisely to maybe build a project that might help you stand out when you're applying to university or when you're applying for a job. So examples of this could be starting your own business, starting a podcast, writing. Publications are really good, especially as a medical student, especially in medicine. I would think about writing publications. That could be an opinion piece for the student BMJ. The student BMJ are a really good resource actually, because they're always advertising for things like internships or competitions. So have a look around and think about how you can utilize your time to stand out from the crowd. So for my next tip, it would be throw yourself in. I know it depends on your personality. So for me, I was a little bit shy, and so especially in clinical placements, I didn't necessarily volunteer myself. We were always picked on, to be honest. So I was picked on, and then that made me even more shy, and it didn't really help me. So I think it is hard, but honestly, you'll do much better, and you'll build your confidence if you throw yourself in and you get involved as much as possible. Now, this applies especially as a medical student in your clinical placements. Even when you're practicing for your OSCEs, practicing in front of different people and putting yourself on the spot will really help you, especially when you're a doctor and you have to think on the spot and you are thrown in at the deep end. So, building your online presence, how can you do that? So that's a whole nother video, but the basics would be to obviously have a number of social media accounts. For me, I could probably have more, and I probably should have more, but I have obviously the key ones, which I think are Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I've recently started Instagram. I probably should have started it a long time ago, but nonetheless, I've just started it and I'm on the platform now. So I would say have a few key social media platforms, and if you want to have a website or a blog, that also adds to your online presence. And don't be intimidated by LinkedIn. When I first joined LinkedIn, I was intimidated because I thought, well, there's loads of people who have all these qualifications and all this experience. I started filling my profile in, and I realized that I had so much that I had to input, and there was so much on my profile. And then over time, people were complimenting me and saying, your profile is really good, you've done so much. And I didn't think I'd done so much. I think that comes from being a medical student and being in this environment of high performing individuals and high achievers, and also having a particular personality where you want to be a perfectionist, and perfection just isn't real. So don't be intimidated by LinkedIn or even just social media profiles in general. Be honest and just build as you go, and things take time, so don't be in a rush to get loads of followers and to put all these interesting things on your profile. Think about what you're putting, think about how it's going to benefit you, who do you want to attract if it's in LinkedIn, what jobs you want to have in the future, and how LinkedIn could help you. So don't be in a rush, take it slow, and just build as you go along. And you'll also find that when you build your online presence, that opportunities will come to you. You might in the beginning start seeking opportunities, so seeking jobs. You'll find that people will offer you opportunities without you even having to do anything, because you would have invested all that time into your online presence and into your social media, that you'll just sit back and you'll get people asking you to speak or asking you to work for them, and it goes on. Really be careful online. Not only be careful of who you're interacting with, also be careful of what you're posting, what you're saying, because these comments and things that you're posting on the internet is there forever. You may not think it is, but it is. So always make sure that you want to portray a particular image of yourself. For me, I always try and portray who I am, but also a professional image of myself, and that goes along with personal branding and building your online presence. So because of the world we live in, a digital world which is becoming more digital the further we go, especially with the coronavirus pandemic, make sure that you're very careful and that you do your research, and just remember that what you post online is there forever. So we have seen very good examples of celebrities who have, for one example, worked on a soap and then have been sacked because of something that they posted many years ago. So really be careful and really think about what you're posting before you hit that button to post. Also, make sure you network offline as well. Go to events. Make sure that you not only network within your field, but you network outside of your field. And this will definitely help you with things that you're not taught on your course and that you're not immediately exposed to. Go to events, go to conferences, go to courses, and make sure that you network with people face to face as well. And this will definitely help you develop transferable skills. It will help you develop things like communication and interpersonal skills, which you definitely need not only as a student but for your working life. So those are my tips. I hope you found them useful. If you like the video, then give it a thumbs up, and I'd love to hear your comments in the comment section below.